Hi, I'm Kate, and I'm here at the Canadian Science Policy Conference with Dr. Bonnie Schmidt and Mohammad Asadi Lari, who are here after their panel on science learning in the new generation of data natives, and they're here to answer some questions. So starting with Bonnie, you are the founder and president of Let's Talk Science. So what does Let's Talk Science do? Tell us a bit about the challenges and how they relate to science policy.
Oh, sure. Yeah, Let's Talk Science is a national education and outreach organization that focuses largely on the school system. So from early childhood to grade 12, teachers and students. Our focus is really to help young people build the skills that they'll need for the future to survive and thrive in jobs and as good global citizens. We also work with 48 universities and colleges to mobilize volunteers, largely university and college, undergraduate and graduate students, to help us work with the kids in the communities. Yeah, so we've been working together for a while. With respect to dealing with policy, Let's Talk Science is more focused on education policy, and for us, science learning is a really great platform to help people build the kinds of skills and knowledge that they'll need to be active contributing citizens. So I'm a policy geek myself, though. I have a PhD in physiology, been coming to these conferences since the beginning, and I love the opportunity to marry together what we're doing in education to help get kids more engaged in science learning, potentially as researchers or potentially as policy folks or not, and the dialogue that we can have with the policy community to help us think how we can shape education policy in a different way.
And Mohammad, you are the co-founder and managing director of the STEM Fellowship. So we heard a bit from Sasha earlier today, but if you could tell us what the STEM Fellowship does and your role in it, the challenges and the relation to policy.
Absolutely. So adding to what Bonnie mentioned, my undergrad degree was actually in physiology, that's when my involvement in STEM Fellowship began, and I met Sasha virtually. And the role that I've had since has been developing a network, and that's essentially at the heart of what STEM Fellowship is. We're a network that provides opportunities, and we focus on developing programs, particularly in big data, education, scientific communication, and also empowering underrepresented groups in STEM. So it's a youth-led organization with a presence on 17, 18 campuses across the country, and we have around 100, 120 high school ambassadors. So we have around 300 people who are involved in the past 3.5 years, running our day-to-day operations on the ground and also across the country. So we really want to bring in this youth-driven perspective on what the needs are, because our students are seeing what's happening on the campuses, what they don't see in their school curriculum, what they don't see in their undergraduate curricula, and what they realize they don't have when they're going and looking for jobs. And that's where our big data challenge comes from. As I'm sure Sasha has mentioned, this year we have the privilege of organizing jointly with Bonnie Let's Talk Science, and effectively that's how we hope to shape policy. So both education policy and we'll very much link to that with the innovation ecosystems and talent development. And I'm currently in the first year of my MD PhD program at the University of Toronto, and this kind of trickles down into the work I'm doing, because for my career I'm hoping to really link elements of innovation, continued learning with my practice as a clinician. That's what we're hoping that everyone within STEM Fellowship and ultimately the education system hopefully will feel, and that sense of fulfillment within their area of work.
Right. That's quite the goal there.
Aspirational.
We just want to change the world, just no small.
No big, no big. Right. So, Bonnie, you talked about science engagement with students. What do you think the impact is of the Let's Talk Science activities, both for students who do go on to science careers and those who don't?
Well, we really operate from the fundamental level that science inquiry is just a great way to learn. It's not really about trying to just create more researchers, but the fundamental curiosity that young people have about understanding the world around them. So we take that innate interest and we help them to build the kinds of skills and characteristics like resiliency, risk-taking, problem solving, critical thinking, teamwork. So for us, our goal is to help every student we reach and every teacher we reach build their skills and their characteristics to just be able to really participate in the community. What we have been seeing, because we're now celebrating our 25th anniversary, is volunteers who are now with us and in university or in grad students are saying they first experienced us when they were in elementary school. So it's really exciting to have a whole cohort of undergrads and graduate students who actually did reference Let's Talk Science, and the mentorship they received through the program is being instrumental in getting them turned on to science and keeping them engaged. So it wasn't necessarily what we set out to do, but it sure is. It was so rewarding to see.
Well, I want to add on to the impact that Let's Talk Science has made. I only spent a year of my high school in Canada, and that 1 year I participated in multiple programs that were co-organized by Let's Talk Science. And it was from that time that I remembered the logo. And it was associated for me with programs like Stem Cell Talks and a couple of other programs that my sister also participated in. And within our organization, we see it within our network. The inspiration from Let's Talk Science, because it's all about trying to make that local change within one's own institution and network. And I think that's what our organizations really want to share with policymakers and people in industry too. That's what we should be striving for this.
Even today at our panel, though, a number of the people who came up to ask questions self-identified as Let's Talk Science volunteers, and that was pretty cool.
And it was, I mentioned it in the panel. I wanted to my personal story, and many others in our organization really sounds, and I think that's the ultimate impact an organization can make, is empowering people to make change. In this particular, it's within the education system. So whether it's teachers, students, and these people are, many of them, they're mentors, and they're going to be policymakers soon.
I hope so.
Yeah.
So do you think your personal experience also inspired you to co-found the STEM Fellowship?
Absolutely. So I think that initial conversation that I had with Sasha and seeing what he was seeing as a teacher, as what wasn't in the system, what wasn't being taught. And I was thinking, well, I spent a year of high school in Canada. I did most of my high school education in Iran. But yeah, I feel like there are a lot of opportunities, like when you think of the potential for students to go work in a lab. And I was proactive, admittedly, but I had so many of my friends that wanted to reach out, wanted to do more, but it wasn't there. And I think that kind of drew me to see, because I was trying to change how our high school worked. I was doing that in Iran, and I was trying to do that in Canada, trying to push my teachers. Can we participate in this? Can we do that? And then they have to say, oh, come on, like you have to calm down a bit. I got it all the time. Like you have to calm down. I still get that. But that was the essence of what was. And I saw someone in Sasha, and then later on communicating with you, and in these conversations, no, it wasn't perhaps my problem. It was perhaps the system's problem, and it wasn't the teacher's problem either, because they had a lot to deal with, and just seeing some of the more systemic issues, and that was kind of at the heart of why I wanted to get involved in STEM fellowship and education. And I guess it's not very common, at least in my classmates. A lot of them actually volunteered for Let's Talk Science. This is an interesting conversation within the UFT Faculty of Medicine, but interest in education is kind of seen as something you do in undergrad, and then you move on with your phase. And the reason I wanted to stay involved in these conversations because I feel like they're so connected, and it is absolutely. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think these conversations are important.
Yeah.
And I hope a lot of them are going on in this conference right now.
Hopefully.
So with that in mind, what do you two think are the most important impacts or impact?
Well, I think that this Canadian Science Policy Conference has become the premier event to bring everybody together. And the panels are great. It's really wonderful to have the different threads, but what's even more important is just the convening aspect. So sometimes we don't see each other for a whole year, and the amount that we can get caught up on and sharing of our stories is hugely, hugely important. It's also really important to be able to get some of the thought leaders out, so the plenary sessions and people who can make a difference in the country, taking the time to give us their perspective and listen to us it's great. I think I've only missed one out of the 10 conferences, so it's a place to be. Yeah.
Well, and this is my first, Sasha's also first time, and I'd wanted to participate in the past 2 years. The opportunity never we allowed for it to happen. I was in Vancouver, and so it's interesting to be participating the first time, also involved in a panel. When we came in this morning, exactly echoing what Bonnie mentioned about, I was like, oh, everyone's here. Seeing Bonnie, seeing Rennie Barlow from US Science Canada, seeing Dr. Naylor in the morning, and we were late, so we missed the panel. But I'd been in touch with him via email over the weekend, and well, he's very associated with the Faculty of Medicine at U of T, but he's not around as much anymore. He's at Sick Kids, and he was like, oh yeah, this is great, and it was, for me, it was incredible, because I had the opportunity to meet him at U of T, but I'm meeting him for the first time at CSPC. That's incredible, and I'm very happy to see that it's actually very diverse group of, and that's incredibly energizing. So I'm super happy that the opportunity presented itself to be here. Yeah.
Well, I am glad to have you here. I really enjoyed your panel together just now, and thank you for coming to talk with me and share your insight on these issues.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thanks, Kate. Thanks.
Yeah, you're very welcome. It's been a pleasure. So is there any place that our viewers can go to find out more about you and your respective work?
letstalkscience.ca.
Nice and straightforward.
It is.
STEMfellowship.org.
There we go, easy to remember. All right, thank you very much, and enjoy the conference.
Awesome, thank you so much.